So you really think they're going to add mouse support in iOS 13?
I'm hopeful, but also a little worried at the same time. My worry is that if they add mouse support, will developers start making features that rely on kind of mouse support primarily? Will there be this kind of disconnect between apps that are like mouse apps and touch apps, and then suddenly you have to carry a mouse everywhere? They won't force you to carry a mouse, just like you're not forced to carry an Apple Pencil, but like the more stuff they add to it, the further away you get from just this pure, in quotes, pure iPad experience.
I wonder if they were going to go that route, if they would take a similar approach that they did with the fourth generation Apple TV in terms of third-party controllers. It's like, your app can support third-party controllers, but it has to work entirely without them for us to approve it.
Right, yeah. That didn't go very well, though, did it?
It really didn't. I think that was the wrong choice, because you don't have to worry about carrying things around. Like, it's not an extra thing to carry around with an Apple TV, because it's just going to sit in your living room. But I see your point, where it would be a huge nuisance if you had to depend on a mouse in some cases. Unless they made a folio case with a trackpad built in, that might alleviate some of that.
Right, yeah, trackpad's the other side of this, because that would be pretty cool, I think, especially when it comes to selecting text. Although the whole 2 fingers on the keyboard is amazing at selecting text compared to the old hold your finger on the screen till you get the loop and then drag it, which is horrendous. I love the 2 fingers on the keyboard, but
yeah, that's pretty good.
A trackpad would just make it, a little bit better. Probably a lot better.
So do you have specific use cases in mind that you would prefer to use a mouse or trackpad over the touchscreen?
I think I wouldn't mind, because I've tried to move my jobby job, my regular day job, to the iPad as well recently. I wouldn't mind having the iPad higher up, like closer to my eyes, just like a regular monitor would be. And so in that case, I would have probably a keyboard as well and a mouse. And then, at the end of my 9 to 5, I would disassemble the whole thing, deconstruct it, and just take the iPad and use it as a touch device after that. So that's my use case that I've got in mind. And maybe even to that scenario, utilize the whole USB-C to monitor thing and have like a nice big display keyboard and mouse. It's kind of becomes a dockable computer at that point once you've got keyboard, mouse, and a display. It's the whole dream of having this really small device that you can not put in your pocket, but almost carry around with you very easily. It's small and light, but then you dock it somewhere and you've got this really powerful computer. That's been a dream for a long time.
Yeah, if they just take this one step farther and they integrate all of these existing technologies and they make like a folding phone. So when you want a phone-sized device, you have it, and it unfolds into a tablet-sized device. We want that, but then you can dock it and have a full computer experience as well.
Exactly.
Just one device to replace everything. As a matter of fact, you can strap it to your wrist, and it's your watch too.
And the Mac Pro has got this modular point where you can insert the phone, and it adds a GPU and another processor and 40 gigs of RAM.
I mean, some of that's a stretch, but we're not too far away from a lot of that being reality, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. I've got my fingers crossed at least.
Yeah. So, are you like a shoe fan? Are you into shoes at all?
I have these moments where I think, I'm going to get some really nice shoes, and they're fleeting moments, I would say, at best. So no, I put myself in the not shoe fan category.
I'm very similar. Like I've had moments where I'm like, man, people seem to really care about shoes. Maybe if I got a $300 pair of shoes, I would be into shoes too. I've never actually gone so far as to do that. I think the most I've ever spent on shoes are like $40. But I saw Nike has an app specifically for buying shoes. It's called Sneakers, but it without any of the vowels. So Snickers or however. And it's like this really kind of exclusive feeling app. They have like their whole product lineup, but they also have like a timeline of like these are going to be coming out, and it's like we'll let you know 15 minutes before it comes out so you can jump in and buy it the moment it comes out because it's going to be like a limited run kind of thing. And I saw that they're releasing a new pair of their self-lacing shoes. So in 2015, they released like some self-lacing shoes that looked like they're out of Back to the Future. Have you seen those?
I remember reading something about them. I don't have a picture in my brain I can reference.
So they're like obscenely expensive and really unpractical, and it was just kind of like a gimmick. But then a few years later, they kind of like perfected their self-lacing shoe technology, and they've had these shoes on the market for I think maybe almost a year now, and they're releasing a pair in like a week that is styled after the Back to the Future shoes, and I'm considering ordering those. I had so far as downloaded the app.
Have you got your 15-minute warning set up as well?
I do. I don't know how limited run it's going to be. It doesn't say, and I'm not
they're not going to tell
the...
you. Absolutely not.
Well, I want to know if I need to like buy it the moment it comes out, or if it's like not a big deal if I order it a week later, or I don't know.
That's exactly what they want you to feel, that you need to buy this the moment it comes out. There's no question. Yeah. Even though it's limited to 1 million pairs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's not... The only thing special about this pair is like the color of the fabric, because they have these for sale like just in the stores as a regular pair of shoes. So, I don't know. But I'm tempted by it.
So my two questions about this are, how self-lacing are they, and what sort of cost markup do we have to have a Back to the Future colored pair?
Okay. So the way they work is they have like 2 buttons on the side to increase and decrease the tightness of the shoe. And I think once you put your foot in and you set like the ideal tightness you want your shoe, from then on, every time you slide your foot in, it'll lace up correctly.
So do they require batteries then?
Yeah. You have to recharge your shoes.
Yeah, okay. Is it USB-C?
That's a good question. I haven't actually looked so far as what the connectors are. I think wireless charging would be ideal for these, especially if you're worried about waterproofing them. But I don't know if they actually do that. I'm looking at the press photos. I don't see pictures of ports on them. So maybe they do charge wirelessly?
I've got the next name for Nike. Nike Air Power.
Oh, man. So they've got an app. So you can, like, from your phone, tie and untie your shoes, which seems silly. But, I don't know. The whole thing seems silly. And I'm probably not going to... I was all in on this until I started explaining it to you out loud. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why would I even consider spending this kind of money on shoes?
The old prank of like sitting in a classroom and tying the person in front of you's shoelaces to their chair, that's gone now. What you have to do is take their phone and untie their shoelaces with an app. It's how the kids in 2019 are going to live.
I bet there's not a huge security concern in wireless technology in these shoes, and they'd probably be pretty easy to like hack into if you wanted to.
Drive-by Unlacing. It's the new exploit vector.
Well, these shoes are specifically marketed as like for use playing basketball. So like, I don't know if any actual athletes are wearing these shoes, but if they were and you went to a game and like remotely unlaced everyone's shoes at the same time.
I just can't wait for this to happen.
Giving someone an idea somewhere.
So how closely have you studied the WWDC invitation that went out?
I haven't pored over it. Is there something in there you've seen?
Oh, there's so many clues, so many hints.
Okay, walk me through it.
Well, first we have a unicorn with its head exploding.
Mm-hmm.
So that means something amazing is happening.
Yeah.
We have a very prominent diamond that the unicorn looks like it may be about to eat. So the diamond represents food, food at the conference.
Okay.
Do you think I'm onto some winners so far?
Oh yeah, I think you've got it. They're gonna feed them diamonds.
Feed the unicorn diamonds.
Okay.
No, I don't think you can really ever get too much out of these invites. But it is dark, so that probably means dark mode in iOS 13, although that's pretty much a given at this point. There are lots of tools, a wrench, a hammer. So developer tools, I'm thinking.
Right.
There's an on-off switch that kind of looks like a Mac Pro as well, or at least the old Mac Pro. So I don't know, Mac Pro? Maybe the diamond represents the Mac Pro. The crown jewel.
The unicorn is the Mac Pro.
Okay.
And it's exploding.
And so there are thermal issues. I'm stealing that from someone in the comments. A thermally constrained Mac Pro.
Oh, yeah. Man, I really hope they don't try to over-engineer this. It'd be really nice just to have a box with replaceable components again.
How Apple is that, though? To have, I know they've said modular, but...
Yeah. I mean, once upon a time, it was very Apple. The cheese grater Mac Pros were incredibly simple to swap any component out. They used proprietary connectors, but you could open the case and easily plug and unplug anything you wanted.
It's probably the easiest opening computer case I've ever dealt with, really.
Yeah, I mean, even farther back, like the G4, the Power Mac G4 and G3s, those also opened very easily. Were a little messier just because of the constraints of the time, I assume, but you folded the side door down and the whole motherboard was on that side door and folded out for you to access, so it was pretty convenient as well.
What if every interconnect was Thunderbolt?
You mean kind of like they did on the last Mac Pro?
On the last Mac Pro, exactly. It's modular. You can add to it with cables and Thunderbolt.
I mean, there is a whole new generation of Thunderbolt since the 2013 Mac Pro that's supposedly, twice as fast? So you're never going to get the same performance that you would out of something plugged directly into the motherboard.
Right, yeah, I've completely lost track of where that's up to, having not built a PC for quite a while, but yeah, it was always the case that PCI Express or whatever, ISA, was always faster than whatever was on the outside of the box.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know. I really hope that we see something about it in the coming weeks, but there's been absolutely no leaks, which I guess is a little more par for the course for their computers, but still surprising we haven't heard anything.
Right, and then when it comes to the software, it's just been a waterfall of information. It's like there's someone sitting next to Guy Rambo and just telling him what to write on 9 to 5 Mac. It's incredible.
Yeah,
it's kind of spoiled it a bit too, actually. It is a little disappointing.
A little bit. I'm most anxious, I think. I mean, between the two operating systems, iOS is what's going to affect me the most. I'm most excited to see what they're going to do for iPad. But I'm also probably equally excited to see this new version of Marzipan and how developed it's become in the last year.
Well, it's only one show away, so let's stop talking about it.
Okay.
I do have one other pre-show topic that I just wanted to talk about. And that is headphones. I just wanted to talk to you and see if you had any recommendations for headphones besides the AirPods, because I'm going to be catching a plane in a week. And I have done AirPods on the plane before, and previously it's been terrible. And now with my AirPods battery at about 25% maximum capacity, I know it's going to be even worse, probably unusable. I was wondering, do you have any experience with something better? I know you do have other headphones, so I thought I'd ask.
Yeah. Are you looking for something with noise cancellation since you're going to be on a plane?
Yeah, I think I'm heading down that route.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, there's 3 options for wireless noise-canceling headphones right now, if you want just the best you can find. There's the Sony WH-1000 XM, and these are all about the exact same price range, $300 to $350.
Yeah, I figured that when I had a quick glance during the week.
Yeah. So these Sony headphones have excellent noise cancellation. They have the exterior of the headphones is a touch surface to control your phone with, and if you place your hand like entirely on the side, it reverses the noise cancellation and amplifies the outside audio. If you want to hear something quickly, you can put your hand on the side of the cup, and it will amplify everything around you, so you can hear what's going on.
Do you cup it as if you're like trying to hear better, sort of cupping, or just more like a smother a baby sort of cup?
Yeah, you have to put your flat palm on the surface, so not quite, but yeah, same idea. So those are really good. They do have an issue where they can register false touch inputs in cold weather, which isn't so much of an issue for you, unless you're going to be wearing these in like Germany in the winter or something.
Oh, it is a freezing 19 degrees Celsius in my room right now.
Yeah, it's like if it gets below, I think it's around freezing, they can start registering false touch inputs.
Okay,
but
I won't have that
probably
problem.
not an issue. The next one is probably a given. It's the Bose QC35s.
Right, that's what every man and his dog seems to have on a plane.
Right, yeah, they're extremely comfortable. Between those and the Sonys, I think the Bose are a little more comfortable. The noise cancellation between the two is equally good. I wouldn't choose one over the other. They have physical button controls on the outside, and they have my biggest issue is they have a Google Assistant button on them.
Oh well, all right.
So, and then if I were to buy a pair today, and the ones I've been considering purchasing for a while, and especially now, it looks like they're $100 off right now. The Microsoft Surface headphones. So right now they're going for $250 US. They have equal sound quality and noise cancellation, but they have, instead of touch controls or buttons, they have physical like dials on either cup, and one controls volume and one controls how much noise cancellation you want, so you can turn it all the way up, or you can even turn it, I think, in reverse to also amplify the outside noise. And my big selling point for these are you can use Siri through them, and these have USB-C as well. They have the modern connectivity.
That's checking a lot of boxes. I do love USB-C. I do love the Siri integration. The one downside I'm thinking is that I almost definitely won't be able to purchase these from an Apple store. And I was hoping to do that just because they have probably the best like no questions asked return policy of any retailer. And so if I didn't like them, I would have no problem.
Do they do that on third-party products as well? I know they have no questions asked on their own stuff, but I didn't know if that was for everything.
I'm fairly sure. I should triple check that.
Sure. So, I mean, out of the three, I've tried the Sonys and I've tried the Bose, and I like both of them. I have never tried the Microsoft, so I can't speak from experience on those, except for just I've seen the features. I've seen a lot of reviews on them, and they seem like the pair that I would buy if I were to buy a pair today.
All right, looks like I might be trying to track down a Microsoft store.
Oh, do they have those in Australia?
No, at least not in Perth. But I'm sure they'll be for sale at other places, so I'll have a look.
Sure.
Thanks for recommendations. And they're all wireless, right?
Yes, they're all wireless.
All right. Well, hopefully I'll have something to report back on in a couple of weeks, if I can fit it in to a packed WWDC show.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about.
Well, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
I thought during the last 2 weeks, since our last show, that I would exclusively pick non-keyboard related topics for today's show. And we made it 13 days without any keyboard news. I thought, we're on to a winner. We're not going to have to talk about keyboards. And then Apple thought we needed to do something about this. So they tweaked their MacBook keyboard design and expanded their repair program. Who saw this coming?
I would not have predicted this, at least this soon.
I don't think I was expecting any sort of MacBook Pro news until later in the year, and maybe on the rumoured 16.5-inch MacBook Pro. But so basically what they've announced, the main thing is that they're changing the material that makes up the butterfly mechanism under the keys, probably to something stronger. I think the tissue paper just wasn't cutting it anymore.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Which kind of gives credence to the explanation that it was like metal fatiguing that was actually the root cause of all these problems, and not dust, as we kind of touched on last show,
right,
for a little while.
There's a lot of mixed emotions with this announcement, as far as them addressing this and expanding their repair program is great. The fact that it came along with a slightly updated MacBook Pro is kind of disappointing, because it means that our chances of seeing a whole new design this year is pretty slim, I think. And we're probably going to have to wait till next year to see these 16-inch MacBook Pros. The fact that they expanded their repair program to the point of 2018 models, their whole keyboard will be replaced with the 2019. That's really exciting and great. But then you see the repair program is expanded all the way to include these 2019 models now. So it kind of, I don't know, there's two sides. It's either like, man, you have a lot of consumer confidence in buying this because if it goes wrong, you're not going to fight with Apple. They're just going to repair it for you. But also, it doesn't seem like Apple has a lot of confidence in even their fourth attempt at fixing this keyboard.
It's right, number 4. And do you think the fact that they're including these brand new MacBooks in the program means they know there's going to be issues down the track, and that they still have like the next thing after butterfly mechanism to come out? Or do you think it's just look, if there is a problem, I know we've cried wolf a number of times now. If there is a problem, we don't think there is, then you'll still be covered.
I think the real answer probably lies somewhere directly in the middle of those two options.
They're crossing their fingers. We're crossing our fingers. No one wants a 4th gen to be as bad as the previous 3 gens. But just in case.
It's still not enough to tempt me. I'm definitely going to wait for a full redesign before I consider purchasing a MacBook Pro again, or at least wait like a year and see that there hasn't been any issues with this new keyboard.
And the poor old 1st and 2nd gen butterfly keyboard owners are left behind. They will continue to get replacements that are just the old design, and then probably have to get it repaired again in 6 months and do that ad nauseum. So,
in the light of this news, how do you feel about your decision not to pay the extra to upgrade to the 3rd gen keyboard, which you could have then gotten the 4th gen?
I'm still very happy to be living the iPad lifestyle at the moment.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not concerned.
Have you gone so far as to get any of the extra accessories yet, like the keyboard or pencil?
I'm trying to use my iPad as a pure, again in quotes, device that doesn't include all these accessories. I don't really know why I'm doing this. I'm just so hesitant to just add and then just have this like this mess on my desk of stuff that isn't cables but just adds clutter. I don't, you know me. I just don't like having too much stuff around. Too much anything that could clutter surfaces. I'm generally against. Although the iPad keyboard, would be attached to the iPad, so you wouldn't really see that. What was the other option? The Apple Pencil. It kind of, it clips onto the top of it, so it's neat.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just forcing myself to use it just as a tablet, and it's actually pushed me to change nearly all of my text input now is via Siri, and I'm actually finding that...
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is actually a whole other topic, but... But I've been pushing myself to use Siri voice dictation on the iPad, and it does actually seem to be... Well, it is a hell of a lot better than last time I tried it, which was probably a few years ago. I tried extensively, that is, not just for the random message here and there.
Right.
And actually seems to get, measurably better as I use it. I like picking up acronyms I use, and when it puts down something that I've said and then puts the little blue dots under it to say like, oh, there are other options. It seems to, to learn how I speak a little better. And I'm generally quite impressed with it at the moment.
And do you use this so far as like write full emails?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I do all my emails, messages, try and use Siri for basically anything they can do. Try to use shortcuts more. Yeah, I could go on.
And that's a whole topic in itself. Oh. I wonder if this Apple's learned their lesson with parts, looking at these new laptops, considering the fact that their keyboards have failed so many times, and to replace the keyboard, they have to replace the whole top case and the speakers and the battery, just because it's all one piece. I wonder if in the future they will maybe lean back a little more towards individual parts.
Look at improving their iFixit repairability rating.
Maybe.
Yeah, I wonder. And that was another part of the announcement, is that their repair turnaround time is actually going to be a lot faster than it was. I know from personal experience that I think it was roughly a week or 5 working days to get a turnaround before, but they've promised to bring that down.
Yeah, that feels completely unacceptable for losing your computer.
Right, it is a major hassle when you use it for work. Like, what are you going to do?
Right.
Especially for people who aren't in like a corporate environment where they're not just going to be given another computer. I guess they're not the ones that are going to be worrying about it really, though, in this case. But maybe slightly smaller. Self-employed people just can't give away a computer for a week. I mean, that's their business stopping.
I think that sentiment is pretty pervasive. In the past, we've talked about this. There's been a lot of comments about, I'm just dealing with the fact that my keyboard is double typing because I can't afford to give it up, or it's not worth it to me to drive out to an Apple store and then have to go back in a week. And so I think a lot of that has been skewing their numbers too, as far as how big of an impact these faulty keyboards have had.
One of the commenters, I'm just trying to look for it now, but one of the commenters was from India and said that the Apple support options are so terrible in India that they've just paid for a third-party repair of their keyboard. Actually, I might be thinking about FlexGate. See if I can find it. But in this case, actually, I think I am completely confusing with FlexGate, where Apple has actually said that anyone who has paid for this to be repaired in the past will actually be reimbursed. And yeah, that's the next topic.
They're all
I'll use the magic of editing to move that forward 15 minutes.
So yeah, I'm anxious to see. I mean, fingers crossed this will make a difference, but I'm sure, man, if we go another couple weeks and these get in the hands of people, we're already seeing reports of them failing like the last generation. I don't know what you can do to come back from that. Even
then
though
we know that Apple has zero idea about the true cause of this problem.
Or they're really serious about saving their redesign and keeping their 4-year cycle they've had for the laptops for a while.
Yeah, it's written in a stone tablet somewhere that they can't update the butterfly mechanism until 2020.
That was the dying words of Steve Jobs. Don't update the laptops more than once every 4 years.
On Apple MacBook updates, we have the first ever 8-core MacBook Pro and the fastest Mac notebook ever. So we've got some new Intel chips in MacBook Pros. So a bit of icing on the top of the keyboard announcement, really. And it seems to be they're just getting some of this not quite so major news out of the way before WWDC, which might mean there's bigger hardware news at the conference during the keynote.
This 8-core thing scares me a lot. I don't know what the timeline is as far as when these will be getting in people's hands. I assume within the next week. But I'm sure the first things we're going to see is like Dave 2D testing the thermals on this 8-core machine. And I am not optimistic for this existing enclosure to handle the thermals of an 8-core CPU very well.
As one of the commenters said, the fastest Mac notebook ever for like 5 seconds until it's thermally throttling itself.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find this. There was a commenter who pointed out that even the Razer Blade Pro, the 17-inch laptop with very serious integrated cooling, they only max out at the 6-core chip, and they can't handle the 8-core. So I don't see how Apple's going to be able to do better without maybe there's some serious redesign on the inside, but they have not made any indication of that so far.
Yeah, I would think that would be as part of the announcement if there was also some sort of thermal redesign to the laptop instead of just updating the chips to Intel's latest offerings.
Right.
So I would be surprised. But yeah, like you said, we'll have to wait until they're in people's hands to, especially Dave 2D, he was kind of the announcer of the major thermal problems when the i9 came out, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And as Double A12 says in the comments, so I take it this means we won't see a full redesign this year. That confused me a little bit because, well, it didn't confuse me, but it raised some questions because there was that tweet from Guy Rambo who was asked, do you think there'll be a new MacBook Pro soon? And this is on Twitter, at least with a redesigned keyboard. And he replied simply, yes. Is this the computer he was talking about, do you think? Or will we see something else come later in the year or even at WWDC?
I can't imagine that we're going to see a full redesign at this point. I can't think of a time in Apple's history ever that they would make 2 iterations on their laptops or any device within 6 months of each other. So maybe this is what Guy is talking about. We've also seen that sometimes Guy can be overconfident about things as far as air power goes. I don't know. I feel like it's all but guaranteed that we won't see a completely redesigned MacBook Pro this year.
Supported by the fact that these computers are also under the keyboard service program, these brand new ones. So,
yeah. I think next year is going to be the year.
So a little lonely laptop that sits on its own now is the MacBook Pro non-touch bar.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been left for dead in the reeds by a river somewhere. It is a bit of a confusing laptop because it sits very close to the new MacBook Airs in more or less in specs and in price, doesn't it? Do you think it's left for dead now?
At the price now, I feel like it has to be. I'm looking at their price now, starting at $1,300, and there's also a $1,500 option. Yeah, with the fact that you've got outdated specs and an older keyboard design.
Right, the bad keyboard design, second gen.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it exists to fill some niche. The Air starts at $1,200 and goes to $1,400. So there are MacBook Airs that cost more than the MacBook Pro. But the Pro has a slightly better processor still. So it has to be, they're just wanting to keep their entry price low on the MacBook Pros, and that's how they're doing it. But I think they're all in on the touch bar, and we won't see the standard function row stay around for much longer.
Yeah, they love their touch bar. They and some other people. You're a fan, aren't you?
I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I miss it quite a bit now that I've my only Mac computers is my iMac. If they had a Magic Keyboard with a touch bar, I'd probably get it.
Okay.
I was just thinking that I actually do use the function keys quite a bit on my iMac, so it might be a little bit of a hassle, but
see, so even a supporter of the touch bar is not sure whether they want it or not. That speaks volumes.
Well, potentially, some of the cases I use the function row for, they could be like, if the programs I was using were smarter, they could map those functions to touch bar options. And that might be something that's even possible to do on my own if I had a reason to play around with it or had a touch bar to play around with.
Maybe the rebirth of the touch bar begins with Marzipan apps, with iOS apps coming to the Mac, and them requiring all these little non-standard keyboard keys to really make the most of them. I'm pretty sure is it Steve Troughton-Smith on Twitter has already exposed the way in which these Marzipan apps can put things in the touch bar. So it's definitely something that has been worked on already. And I think as in the early days as well.
Yeah, I wonder how much the touch bar computers were just forward thinking. They had to have had Marzipan in mind by the time they were releasing these computers in 2016. Maybe this is, the realization of the idea of the touch bar.
Time will tell. Continuing on MacBook news, that Apple releases a FlexGate service program. So FlexGate is where the cable that connects your LCD to the MacBook Pro display's backlight gets worn or broken or brittle after repeated openings and closings of the lid of the clamshell, and you get what looks like a what do you call it? What do they call it? Stage light.
Like a stage light?
Yeah. Okay. Where it's kind of multiple lights shining up from just under the bottom lip of your display. And so this is what I was talking about before, whereas people have been paying to actually have these replaced, and it's in the realm of like an $800-900 repair. So it's not cheap, and there's certainly been a lot of angry people about this because it was never really acknowledged, kind of like how the keyboard problems were acknowledged, but it does seem to be affecting quite a lot of people. And I wonder if these people that it's affecting are people who are heavy users of their MacBook, and that it won't end up affecting everybody with a design flaw like this, and that it but the problem, as noted in the comments, is that they seem to just be replacing the cable with the same cable again, so it may just be pushing the problem into the future. But at least people aren't paying the fee anymore, and in fact will be reimbursed for any previous repairs they paid for, which is nice to read.
The fact that this all came out at once, all of these repair programs and extensions, it really feels like them festivals. Like, okay, these computers are just really, really bad. Sorry, guys. And I don't know. It doesn't. It means to me that it's obvious that it's been an issue, but up until the other day, they've completely denied it. But it seems like they've been sitting on these issues, I guess, until they couldn't anymore, and have all these repair programs that were lined up and just release them all at once.
Well, they wanted to release them with the announcement of the new MacBook Pro, kind of like how you release bad news on a Friday afternoon so that it misses all the news cycles. Yeah. So I think they tried to bury a little bit of this under new product news.
I can see that. So you'd almost think that they would push this off some, though, and they'd say, well, here's the new computer that fixes all those problems. And then 3 months later, they're like, oh, by the way, we'll fix yours as well if you didn't already upgrade.
But then it gets its own whole news cycle. You can't have that.
That's right. Well, maybe they'll do it during WWDC. No one's going to mention repair programs when iOS 13 comes out.
Right, yeah.
This is one I haven't seen much of. It's never something I experienced. Although I didn't have the 13-inch models, but my understanding was this was not exclusive to 13-inch. But I don't know enough about that to confirm that. But if that's the case, it's odd to me that they've only offered this repair program for 13-inch models.
Right, yeah, especially if it is covering 15 inches. I mean, especially if it is affecting the 15-inch models. But, yeah, I like you never experienced this. It's one of those peripheral problems that you do wonder, is it affecting the vocal minority or is it a widespread issue? But the fact that there's a service program would say it's fairly widespread.
Yeah, it's more people than I think we've heard from on the subreddit, at least relative to the keyboard issues.
Exactly. And the commenter, which I've referenced about half a dozen times now, is iOS Sanjay, who's saying he paid to have this fixed at a third-party repairer, so he's not going to get his money back, of course, which is terribly unfortunate for people who have to go through third-party repairs like that. I mean, countries that Apple doesn't have a lot of support options. So you feel for people who put out nearly $1,000 to have this fixed and won't get anything back.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting so close at that price point. Like, I'd be considering a new laptop versus paying just to have the existing one repaired.
Yeah, and I wonder if that new computer is going to be a Mac for a lot of these people as well.
Yeah, it'd be very hard to justify right now.
So my iPhone SE may soon be left in the dark, as rumors suggest that iOS 13 will not support the iPhone 6, the iPhone SE, and the iPhone 5S. And I'm guessing iPads of similar generations.
Right. Yeah, at least the second and third generation iPads.
So this is a rumor from iPhonesoft.fr. And
a household name.
Absolutely. For all the French speakers, I'm assuming, with FR in the audience.
Right.
I'm just going to click on that and see which language it is. En poursuivant votre navigation, vous acceptez. Yeah, that sounds very French. How did you like my accent?
Spot on.
Yeah, I thought so too.
As an iPhone SE owner,
I would be
that news
shocked and appalled. As
really,
yeah. Do you know who coined shocked and appalled? Well, at least in my memory, is do you remember the old YouTube channel =3? Ray someone?
Yeah, Ray William Johnson.
Ray William Johnson, that's it. His catchphrase was shocked and appalled, wasn't it?
You know, this is completely off topic, but was a highlight of my childhood. Ray William Johnson commented on one of my YouTube videos.
Really? Oh, that is a claim to fame if I've ever heard one. What did he say?
It was okay. So I want to frame this. So in middle school, my friends and I made a lot of short films for YouTube, and it was no art. There was no art to it. It wasn't creative. It was just us filming each other goofing off and putting it on YouTube. And one episode, that's not the right terminology at all. One video was a friend of mine interviewing Darth Vader, someone in a Darth Vader costume, and they had a Darth Vader, not like a speech synthesizer, but a soundboard. So they had to select a few Darth Vader quotes, and the interviewer just got fed up with him saying the same things over and over again, and that was the whole clip. Ray William Johnson commented on that video, and he said, "Raffle nice."
I wonder how that video came to his attention.
You have to imagine that he just, especially because that was when he was the most subscribed channel on YouTube for that short window, he had to spend all of his time, if not him, I assume people he hired, browsing YouTube looking for clips, and must have come across ours somehow.
Yeah, or maybe someone submitted it to him to show.
It wasn't good enough to be submitted. It was a very bad video.
Okay.
There was nothing funny about it. I don't know how he came across. Like, even on that channel, we had funnier videos. So I don't know how he came across that one or why he felt inclined to comment. But that was a big highlight of mine. And I'm glad I can share this with you because in the past, when I've told people, no one even know who he was.
Oh, really? Oh, that's terribly disappointing.
Yeah.
I wonder what he's up to. Old Ray WJ. On Twitter.
Stand-up comedian now.
Uh-huh.
I think he did some music stuff. I don't think he's doing music anymore. He did like some vlogging, but I don't think he vlogs very much.
Last tweet, December 25 last year. Merry Christmas. So hasn't been on Twitter.
Wow, he's very active.
5 months or so. Only follows 13 people, yet has 1.3 million followers in return.
Unfortunately, he kind of fell from fame after leaving Equals 3. Not to say his other endeavors haven't been popular. Like My Favorite Martian, I don't know if you saw his music channel, but that also had huge numbers of viewers. I think his vlogging wasn't as popular as that, and I don't know how his stand-up comedy is going. The only reason I even know he's a stand-up comedian is because I stumbled across a video at some point about it. So
his Wikipedia profile is fairly sparse after, say, 2016. Not much to it, really.
So
anyway, iPhone SE running an A9 processor, sold as late as last year by Apple.
Right.
I did not see them dropping iOS 13 support for the iPhone SE, especially considering I can speak from first-hand knowledge that it runs iOS 12 like it was a new device. It is very fast. There's very little stuttering or lagging. I mean, the only issue I would say, is battery life is nothing really compared to their new iPhones.
Right.
And I can also say from personal experience that the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus cannot run iOS 12 well enough to be a usable phone, at least in my opinion. I'm sure there are lots of people that do it. But I feel bad for people who had to run iOS 11 on those devices, which is measurably slower than iOS 12 for a full year before 12 came out. And improved the experience a little bit. But I had both a 6 and a 6 Plus in the last, 9 months. And I would put them in the unusable bucket. And dropping iOS 13 support for those, or dropping, I know I'm saying that a little bit weirdly, but dropping support for those this year in iOS 13, there you go, is high on my list. But there is another aspect of it which isn't the speed of the processor. And this is often talked about, especially on podcasts which feature developers, is that developing for the smaller screen size of the iPhone SE and the 5S and the 5 generation screens is a bit of a nightmare. And so that is also given as a very strong reason for why it might be dropped. What do you think about the screen size thing?
If I was looking at just screen size and no other factors, I would say that it has to be dropped. No doubt. When I was making an app for a local university a year and a half ago or so, or maybe not even that long. Anyway, when I was working on an app, I had to specifically go out and get myself a 5S just for testing, because a layout that looks perfect and beautiful on every other screen size it'll be completely unusable on a 5S, and you almost have to make an entirely different layout just for that screen size. And for such a small demographic, it's almost not worth it. It is not worth it in my mind, and I think that if they're going to drop support, that would 100% be why.
Because it is the last device in that screen size with any sort of guts to run a new version of iOS, isn't it? 5S was 2 generations of processor behind. I think was it the A7 maybe in the 5S.
Right.
And we're talking about an A9 in the SE.
Mm-hmm. I think the iPod Touch has an A8.
Okay. What's the news on that getting support?
Well, there was those rumors a couple months ago about a redesigned iPod Touch, which did not come to fruition at the time, but seemed pretty substantiated when it was being discussed. Like, this was late stages product, and people were expecting it to come out in that week that they seem to be unveiling things every day. So maybe that is their solution if they wanted to keep the iPod around and up to date while also dropping that smaller screen size. Or they could be discontinuing it at this point. I don't see it making up a big portion of their sales.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, isn't it? These smaller screen sizes are such a tiny part of their sales.
I think the iPod Touch, though, it's still integral to the Apple ecosystem in terms of getting new users into the ecosystem.
Right, yeah. It's often the step on board point for young people into iOS.
Mm-hmm.
Because the parents don't want to give them a cellular capable device.
Yeah, I know. I personally, before I was buying computers or phones every year, I was buying the latest iPod Touch, and that is 100% what got me initially into the ecosystem, and a big part of what kept me in the ecosystem. So I feel like they could be missing out by dropping that, unless they had small iPads as a replacement. They really upped the iPad Mini or something, I guess.
Yeah, that's not a bad thought.
It's not quite as pocketable, though.
Not quite. No, it's not really something you can hide under your desk when you're sitting at school.
Which is a big deal for
it is
late middle school, early high school kids.
Yep. I remember having my Nokia 3310 under the desk, and that was the perfect size for the teacher not to see and to also type in. I don't think it was T9 at that point, but
oh man,
back on that topic.
I can't even imagine texting on one of those.
Yeah, well, originally you're pretty limited to actually 160 characters, weren't you? Like, it wouldn't even split it into multiple SMSs.
Yeah. So, as far as what they're going to do, it would seem so weird to drop the SE but keep the 6S. But I think that upset two people. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, there is enough discontent about the small screen size from developers that it remains in my head as something a little bit of a worry. But yeah, not a full-blown worry.
I mean, you have a little bit more stake in this than I do.
That's true.
Because if they were to drop it, in 2 weeks, it wouldn't make a difference to me. I'd be happier because of it. But there's a lot of people who prefer it, who prefer that screen size, and would be very put off by that, especially since they just bought this phone last year, potentially.
Right, or last month.
Right, which goes against Apple's philosophy of long-term support for devices.
Right, yeah. Especially goes in the face of their keep your device for multiple years messages that they've been putting out the last few years. Although,
now that I think about it, the fact that they are putting in the extra work to make this TV app a update to iOS 12 and not just a throw in iOS 13, maybe they're trying to throw all their services into iOS 12 because they know there's going to be a lot of people left on that operating system this year.
No, don't tell me this. That kind of brings us to our next topic, which is that Apple has released iOS 12.3, tvOS 12.3, watchOS 5.2.1, and macOS 10.14.5. And I think the biggest update was just what you were saying, TV. And admittedly, I think that's the only thing I really checked, is I went to the TV app and found it basically as terrible as it's always been, and I quickly stopped paying attention.
This topic is so funny to me. After everything else we've talked about, it's been like breaking news as of yesterday, and then we're talking about something that's happened a couple weeks ago.
9 days, come on.
Yeah, I've played with the TV app. I've seen it exists. I looked at the HBO Now or whatever just to see if there was potentially a deal, and there's not. It's the same price as always. HBO is probably the only thing I'd be interested in subscribing in outside of trying out Apple's original content later this year. So out of all of this, the biggest news for me was the new watch faces in 5.2.1.
What have you got on your watch?
Well, I'm still using the infograph face, but I did play around with the new Pride faces that came out. They some of them feel a little busy, but they're kind of playful and fun. Like you can spin the digital crown on the watch faces, and they kind of animate and dance around and wiggle, which is fun to play with for a few seconds.
Yeah, but you're not sitting there all day doing it.
No, it's not even my primary face. I actually didn't think they looked very good, but they were fun to play with.
It's just something you wear during Mardi Gras.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I do have the couple like Pride bands, so if I were to put those on, I'd probably pick one of the Pride faces. But other than that, it doesn't really match my setup.
As Intellectual Burger says in the comments, kind of disappointing. You still need to launch external apps like Showtime, Anytime, and HBO Go after clicking on a show or movie in the TV app. And that was the first thing I checked. What I'm looking for with the TV app is just, I go to this app, I find the show, it's got the latest version, and I click play and it plays. You know, that's
right.
That's the holy grail, I think, which we're like every year we get further and further away from that. But what I did was I looked for two shows. First one that was on a local network here called SBS, and I clicked play and it just popped me out to, I think it was even the App Store because I didn't have the SBS app installed, so that was strike one against it. And then the second thing I looked for is The Big Bang Theory. It was just the finale the other week, so I checked, and like the TV app had, I think, not even the most recent dozen episodes of the series. So it was like, well, you don't have anything recent, and the stuff you do have, you bounce me to another app anyway. So why didn't I just start in this app? Because I knew where it was. So I still completely missed the point of having this TV app.
I mean, I do see the appeal of, if you have them downloaded and subscriptions, the fact that all of the shows you're currently watching are in one place. It's not an issue I have. I don't watch a lot of shows, and I especially don't watch multiple shows across different platforms that I need to keep track of. But I'm sure there are users that could potentially be helpful to them. I did use the TV app just yesterday to look for an episode of Man vs. Food, and it directed me to the iTunes store, and so I ended up buying it.
Oh, right. So you went to the TV app, and it directed you to the iTunes store app.
Man, it was like the Food Network app. I could have downloaded that and potentially a travel channel, but I actually did want to buy the episode, so I went to the iTunes store as an option.
I don't think I even have that app installed anymore.
You don't have the iTunes store?
No way.
I haven't uninstalled a single default app.
Really?
Except maybe Tips. I think I uninstall Tips every time because it gets annoying.
I used to be an app purist and try and just have like default layout and all the stock apps, and I eventually, it took a long time. I mean, it probably took like 7 years to get past that. I don't even know why I was doing it really, but eventually I started uninstalling some of the stock apps, especially since they become more numerous every year. News, and we've got Tips and Wallet. Although I do keep Wallet around for sure, and TV, of course.
That's completely me. My homepage of my phone looks pretty stock. If I have similar apps, like I like to group my apps by category, which I think is common. For instance, like my banking app and PayPal and everything, I'll stack those on top of exactly where the Wallet app was, and I'll have a finance folder. But
okay.
The layout itself is very similar. And then I have a second page that just has a handful of folders for everything else I've installed.
Oh, really? Okay.
So
Here's my philosophy. I've got if I had a brand new phone with all my apps just randomly assorted, what I would do is go to general reset home screen layout, delete iTunes, news, and stocks, move Instagram Overcast to the front screen, and then sort everything else. Actually, or leave everything else as it is in alphabetical order on all screens after that.
in alphabetical order. Wow.
Yes, I love alphabetical order. It makes it so easy.
Do you actively swipe between pages, or do you Spotlight a lot to launch apps? Or Siri?
I would do both, actually. Actually, I'll do all three, yeah, especially counting Siri. I do try and use... Actually, there are some apps that appear very reliably in Spotlight based on location, which I really like. Like when I'm at the grocery store, we have like the card, like the loyalty card app will very reliably appear in Spotlight. So, and it starts with an R, right. So it's a few pages back. So I have learnt that in certain locations, Spotlight will give me the apps that I need, but... yeah, I will. I'm not against swiping for an app. And I don't have that many installed. So, I mean, we're talking like 4 or 5 pages at the most, maybe even less than that.
That still sounds unruly to me.
I bet I've upset a whole lot of people with my description of how I organize apps.
You haven't updated your organization techniques since like iOS 4.
Your way sounds good, but I'm anti-folder. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah. Never been a fan.
The folders, this might be a little OCD, but like the folders can be difficult for me because if I have an app that I feel like doesn't perfectly fit the name of any of the folders, I have a really hard time figuring out what to do with it. And we'll sometimes download other similar apps so I can make a new folder just for that genre of app.
That's the best thing I've heard all show. So an app you don't necessarily need, you download it right just so you can group it with another app. It's amazing.
Like I don't play games on my phone very much. If there's a new one, I'll try it out. But if I download something like a game and it's just my only game, I don't want to have just the app sitting on my home screen. So I'll go through the App Store until I find another game that's like, that looks interesting enough, I'll download it. And then I can have a games folder, and then it's fine.
I like it. Actually, there was just 2 other things that I wanted to talk about with regards to the latest iOS update, and that's Express Transit cards. So that's actually something I hadn't heard of before. And I'm especially excited about it because my local public transport system is updating their own, like, NFC card with something more modern, which I'm not sure if they've announced it, but I think it's something like an Apple Pay, like an in-your-phone NFC type thing. And Express Transit card is when you don't require any sort of authentication to make the transaction. So you wouldn't have to fingerprint or Face ID authenticate as you were trying to jump on a bus with a queue of 15 people behind you. You can just tap and go.
Right.
So that sounds nice.
Yeah, I'm really excited they're opening up the NFC more. I'd like to see potentially in the future being able to like program like little NFC stickers. Because right now I think the NFC on my phone is limited to only being able to read. But if it was able to write information, that would be really cool and useful.
And the one last thing to mention is that the Apple Music For You tab now updates multiple times a day based on your activity, more or less, which is nice. I can't.
That is nice.
Say I remember how often updated before. Was it every day?
Man, I don't know about the For You. I use the playlists a lot, and those update like once a week. So.
Okay.
I'm not in the For You tab very much. Otherwise,
no. I mean, it's only if I'm like exceptionally bored that I end up tapping through the Apple Music tabs. I nearly always just play music via Siri because I know what I want to listen to.
Right. Yeah. I usually listen to my own library before I'm going and listening to something else.
Oh, really? Okay. especially since Apple Music, my own library has become more and more neglected as I just, something pops into my head and I say, Siri, play blah, blah, blah.
It's more of my barbershop stuff again.
So it's not necessarily...
If I'm listening to music, it's usually because I want to sing along with it, and so I usually pick a barbershop song.
Okay. Anything else from the latest updates? We didn't even talk about the macOS update, but I'm not sure I noticed anything in there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've relegated my actual Mac desktop usage to only when we're recording this show, so any changes wouldn't make a difference to me.
Right, okay. Well, I'm James VDM on Reddit and on Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter.
And that's a wrap.